their shows. I still haven't even done a single episode of Diving Lessons or the game show, which doesn't even have a name yet.
Well,
probably just loaded questions.
Could at least name it. Yeah, it should be loaded questions if that's what we're going to play.
Yeah, we're not going to play any other games. Oh, hi.
The Backpack Show, everybody. We're doing the Backpack Show and not other shows right now.
Well, look, I don't know. We have Alexa on, so every time we say her name, your house is going to light up. We didn't even ask that question.
I know, we'll get to it. We have Alexa Heinrich on. She does social media for St. Petersburg College. She's also an advocate for digital accessibility. I found her on Twitter and instantly loved her and was like, I want to talk about digital accessibility and what people can do to make their social media more accessible and inclusive.
You know, for years, digital accessibility has been one of those things that was so much harder to do at every turn as well. That was one of the big challenges, was that it was like, you know, someone would be like, hey, are you going to transcribe these videos? I'd be like, no, I'm not. Because, you know, it could be like 80 something bucks a video or just no. But it turns out that, you know,
contrary.
Facebook Live even shoots to do it like real time even.
Hi, Michelle.
So,
did you see Frederick Faulkner IV?
I see Fred Faulkner IV. This is an incredible day. Then this means that Alexa's going to have a good day. It's like a blessing at this point. Like when leprechauns show up.
If he rolls in with Fred Faulkner V, I'll know it's like a banner day.
Backpack Show. Nobody fucks with the Faulkners.
And how long have you been waiting to use that joke?
Just now.
I think a while. So the Backpack Show, we bring you success insights from unusual places. But from what I understand, Alexa has been on a little bit of a media tour since publishing a very popular article on Sprout Social a while back about easy ways to make your social media more inclusive.
This is old hat for Alexa at this point. She'll just be like, whatever.
She's too big for us.
Yeah, I know. How do we even land this?
Apparently Fred Faulkner V is in school, so fine, whatever. I mean,
I'd like to say hi to both of my parents.
I think this would be a worthwhile.
They're both good parents.
Oh, hello to your parents. Yes.
I
hello.
like them.
You're not going to call them your birth parents today?
No, what are you talking about? That's rude.
You did it for weeks.
Huh? So,
I love you.
Coach Woodard's here. Yeah, my parents are very lovable people.
Oh, Len Joy is here.
Author Len Joy.
Award-winning sports fiction author Len Joy.
Kate's here early. I don't know how we got ahead of all her other responsibilities for the day.
And Paul's here.
Paul's here. Hey, Paul. Me too. He's in my top 3 favorite Pauls on the planet.
Really?
Yeah.
Does that include fictional Pauls, like
Paul Stanley of Kiss? You know, there's a few other Pauls. I have an Uncle Paul. So.
Are we counting like Les Paul or?
No? Oh no, that's a different whole thing. That's my favorite Les's. Les Paul, Les Nessman.
Okay. I just like to know what I'm working with. So.
All right. Well, more is less.
Oh.
All right. Listen, if we don't grab Alexa, nothing good's gonna come up.
That's probably true.
Nothing good's gonna come up. I just gotta get this out of the way. Anybody who has the Amazon product, you're gonna want to mute it. You're gonna want to tell it hush for a while.
Yes, because we're gonna say Alexa like 167 times today.
And we're gonna get that out of our way. Hey, Brett, how are you? All right, let's drag Alexa into this big mess. I also like that you could have any background you wanted. You could have been at the Alps today.
Yeah, it doesn't work very well with my hair all the time, so I just block out the bedroom with the green screen.
See, I say that too. Virtual backgrounds, you can tell they're fake. Like when people move, it looks kind of odd.
Yeah, it's fuzzy and strange, and sometimes my hair just completely disappears. So
I'm still trying to get a
man bun, but you know,
I want a virtual foreground. That's what I'm working towards.
So Alexa, I found you on Twitter, and you are one of the first guests that said that Twitter is like your preferred place to be as opposed to Instagram. I know that's not the main crux of the interview, but I'm interested to know why.
I have had Twitter, despite what the date on my Twitter account says, I've had Twitter for 10 years. And I just absolutely love it. It's just such a great way to connect with other people. I had an old Twitter that I used when I was a big member of like the hockey fan community that I ended up deleting a few months ago because I'm like, I don't want this anymore. There's a lot of hockey baggage attached to this. So I have my current Twitter.
Hockey baggage, like it's gonna come back and haunt you when you run for office or something.
Maybe, who knows? There was a lot of all caps yelling and swearing when I was in college watching the Blackhawks in Chicago. Yeah.
Oh.
So I just have this Twitter account, but I just like the ease of networking with other people and connecting and getting your information so quickly, sometimes to your detriment. But I love the platform. Always, it's just a great platform.
When they first started letting people message like anybody, I was so aggravated, but now it really works for me because I book for a show. So no, I like it. It's all very situational.
Yeah, it's great. And plus, to me, Twitter is the platform that's making the biggest effort to be accessible. So that also works in its favor for me.
Well, the audio tweets thing, though, I mean, that could have been better. Hi, Leslie.
Welcome to the Backpack Show, where we talk about how cool Twitter is. Hey, Alexa, why on the earth did you get interested in accessibility? Like, do you know someone in that world? Because it just doesn't seem like a thing that someone goes, you know what, I think I'll take up for a cause. Why did it start?
So I was actually working in Chicago, and I was working for a few colleges, and my digital strategist that I worked with in marketing said, hey, can you add alt text to the sliders? So we had like moving banners on our website. And I kind of looked at her like, I don't know what you're talking about. And she had to explain alt text to me. And it just got me, I fell down the rabbit hole of researching this. I was like, oh my gosh, you can do this for social media. I've been doing this wrong for such a long time. And I was just kind of mortified that I didn't know about it and that I wasn't doing such simple things to include more people in the conversation. And for me, that was a really big deal because I worked for a college system. So I was possibly excluding students who were trying to gain access to education and a better life. And I really grappled with that guilt for a while. And then I just kind of took this on as my purpose in life was to educate people about this.
So it wasn't that you had a personal experience with it. It was just that you found out what you didn't know, basically.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Well, when you know better, you do better. That's what Maya Angelou says.
Yeah. And I always stress to people that you don't need to have a disability to care about this topic. So it's just you should care about other people.
I mean, ideally, right? But I think that can be a big ask sometimes. It seems like it.
Yeah. In 2020, it feels like a big ask.
When stay in their house with a mask. So
when you need to, yes, I know. But when you need to sell this to people then and say, hey, listen, this is worth taking the time to do. This is worth the whatever investment we need to make. How do you put that in a kind of like if you're telling that to someone who maybe isn't as sensitive about other people, how do you make the business case for accessibility in your social?
So outside of the empathy factor, there's also the marketing reach factor, which, if someone can't access your messaging, the content that you're posting on social media, you're possibly missing out on an important conversion, an important connection, a sale, a pitch, or whatever you want it. So there's a large chunk of the global population that uses assistive technology to navigate digital landscapes and digital communications. So why wouldn't you want to reach more people? That's the whole point of marketing. Reach more people, sell to more people. There's also the legality of it all. There aren't really laws for digital accessibility with social media, but it's not unheard of for businesses and organizations to get sued because their website's not accessible. Domino's got sued last year because their website wasn't accessible for blind users. So that's not a far off situation for social media.
Blind people like pizza too.
Yes,
Carol says
exactly.
marketing alt tags help with SEO. Mitch says I feel the same way after becoming friends with Haben Girma, first deafblind graduate from Harvard Law. It's so important. Just like you don't think about it and then once you've thought about it, you kind of can't unsee it. Like you think about it all the time. I find. Fred Faulkner says this is what we tell our clients. What could you do with 30% more reach and potential customers? Good accessibility is good SEO. And Mitch says there are lots of laws. I know. Right?
Says lawyer Mitch Jackson.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Well, the ADA does get referenced, and that's what was referenced for the lawsuit against Domino's. And the Ninth Appeals Circuit Court of the United States basically said, yes, the ADA is more for brick and mortar facilities, But in certain instances, it can apply to the websites and digital entities of organizations. So ADA is supposedly more brick and mortar, but they're kind of tweaking it to apply more to digital spaces, which is great. It should apply to digital spaces.
So speaking about that, it feels like we chase new avenues. Like when you talked about the backstage, we talked a moment about the older guy not realizing what a ring light was and what it does to your visual and all that. Things like adding audio to Twitter makes a difference. Things like probably fleets make a difference and all that. What do you do with that information, and how do you keep alerting people? And what's that about in general? Like when you put this information out there, how receptive are people to it? And I guess in that sort of order, like what do you do about the new stuff, and how receptive are people to it?
Well, whenever a new tool or feature pops up, I usually look for the accessibility angle just because that's what I'm most interested about. So when audio tweets came out, I immediately thought, well, where's the transcript part of this? Fleece came out, and I was absolutely floored that you can add alt text to fleets because none of the other stories features on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat have that capability, which is astounding to me. And then there's also the workarounds for captioning. I'm just always sharing like, hey, these tools are great. Just FYI, you can or cannot do these things. And people are usually pretty receptive about that. The only time I really get pushback is when I'm kind of raining on the parade of techniques that people like to use that aren't accessible, like ASCII art and Unicode characters pulled in from other websites, stuff like that, that add an aesthetic value to social media, make it a little bit jazzier than it is normally, but they aren't necessarily accessible. So I do have to be the bearer of bad news sometimes, but I'm a accessibility over aesthetic person. So
Catch us up. What's fleets? Kate Colgan wants to know.
So fleets are Twitter's version of stories. So Instagram has stories, Facebook has stories, Snapchat is the originator of stories, and now Twitter has joined the party with their version of fleets. They took a little bit of time to actually launch the product because they were actually focused on making it accessible. I thought for sure that when it came out, it was going to be, okay, they've chosen to do auto captioning. No, they took the harder route. They decided we're going to tackle alt text first because that's a pretty hard thing to do a streamlined workaround for. So they did alt text, and you can do an external app to caption your fleets and make them 100% accessible, which is amazing. But yeah, so they are the first platform to do accessible stories. So it's pretty groundbreaking to me.
Pretty important. When you talk about accessibility over aesthetics, I mean, when you go into web design, there's a massive amount of conversation around that. The fact that, so much of, visual navigation leaves a lot of people with readers out of the situation, seeing impaired and all that. What are the real basics of that these days, even in the land of HTML5 and Gutenberg and all that sort of thing? What makes it just like a super easy stamp of that? Or is it just in that one? Is it just in the case of, so do you only talk about social, or do you talk about sites?
I mostly only talk about social. I do go and investigate websites occasionally when like a President-elect Joe Biden's transition site went up. I was like, oh, let's go check it out. And they had a whole they have like an accessibility menu, so you can high contrast their website. You can add bigger, you can make the text bigger, which is, great to do. But then they also have custom alt text for all their images. So it's not just an alt tag, which basically tells you what the image is if like it doesn't load. So it would just be picture of Joe Biden. Rather, they have custom alt text, which is a thorough description of the picture. So that was impressive to me because it's every picture on there. They also have an accessibility page on their website, basically telling people, we want this site to be accessible. These are the standards that we follow from WCAG. If you have any feedback for us, please email us immediately and let us know. So that was really impressive to me that he's very forward about his desire to support the disabled community.
Mitch says most people don't know that total discretionary income for the U.S. working age people with disabilities is about $21 billion, according to American Institutes for Research report, which is a big business opportunity. So people are into that. Kate's making a joke about fleets being fleeting. Michelle wants a class, getting everyone up to speed. Yay.
Something tells me those kinds of offerings will be available through Alexa sometime shortly, if not already.
Brett says, I think Facebook is doing that.
Yeah, they do real-time transcription of our videos, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Very helpful. And we have a deaf friend, Karen, who has been a guest on the show. And it was tricky for her to be a guest. I mean, she basically had Rev open and also had access to a human translator the whole time. So,
well, you know what didn't help was that our other guest was a professional dominatrix who didn't do video interviews, so she was off camera. So we're just doing audio only, right? So no lip reading. So it was like that was just an added layer. It just happened to be the day they were on together. So, but it all worked. I mean, Karen made it work. She was very determined.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's an interesting combo.
It happens.
When we get two guests, which is most times, we like to make a really interesting bit of alchemy where there should be no reason why it makes sense and why it connects, but it really happens. But
Alexa, what had happened was that Chris booked an adult film star one day, and I said, I'm going to get a nun. And I couldn't get her for the same day, but I did get Sister Anne Flanagan to come on a later show, and it was amazing.
She's one of our best guests to date.
Yep. I have one of her books. Her The Daughters of St. Paul is her order, and I just got one of their books. Where did I put it? It's like down here somewhere. Sorry, down there.
Near your Triple H photo.
Near my Triple H photo. I think it's a fundraising thing for them. So go get Daughters of St. Paul, Lives of the Saints.
So we have to do some ads and stuff like that. So I'm going to put you backstage just for a second. We'll do a little quick ad read, and then we will get back on with the whole rest of this. Everybody stick around.
Oh, boop. Sorry. I thought you were going to boop her.
I was boop, boop.
But you were working up to it.
I was. All right. Let me hit some buttons. Boy, I'm off. Let's do it. Ready?
Yes.
Hey, we are sponsored by StreamYard.
Yes,
I noticed that StreamYard has been sending around hoodies and shirts and coffee mugs to all kinds of people.
I have not received a hoodie or a shirt or a coffee mug.
They said they were sending, so I don't know what to tell you about that. I think that, most people deserve
Notice
one.
This is not a StreamYard mug. It's a Starbucks.
So we're sponsored. Make your own damn show is what I'm saying. You can make a show. You can have a guest on
I think what Chris is saying, it would be very easy if you'd like to make your own show. We need your voice. We need your expertise. We need what you know, and StreamYard makes it super easy for you to showcase it.
Yes, and a lot of our friends now use StreamYard to make shows. Another show was launched yesterday while I was doing a keynote. Someone bought one while we were talking because they said, hey, why not? So make a show. Hey, authors, like our author friend, Len Joy, who's on the call. If you want to make a website super easy for your authory stuff, books, things like that, other stuff you want to share, other merch, by the way, you might have a cool book t-shirt. You can make a website, and it's going to be really difficult to make unless you consider using PubSite, pub-site.com.
You need a home base online. Anytime I've wanted to interview someone because I've seen them quoted in an article or something, I go looking and they don't have a website. It's super difficult to get in touch with them. You want to make it easy, of course. So PubSite makes it incredibly easy, pub-site.com. It's got all the elements specifically for authors to use that you need on your website. So things about your appearances, any of your social media presence, stuff like that to promote yourself as an author, to promote your books, plural, because, we start with one, but you need to write more than one. So give it a try. It's got a 14-day free trial. You can tool around and see just how easy it is to use. After that, it's just $19.99 a month. And if you don't want to build it, they will build your website for you for $499, which is like obscenely inexpensive. You will not get a website built for that anywhere. And this is specific to authors. They know just what you need because it's powered by FSB Associates, the very best book publicity firm in the business. So go get some. PubSite, pub-site.com.
Also sponsors of Person of the Day.
Yay. I love that they sponsor Person of the Day.
Me too. How could we ever even keep on with Person of the Day if we did have the generous funding of PubSite?
Mitch called us kids. Thank you, Mitch.
Thanks, Uncle Mitch. Appreciate it. So let's grab Alexa back out here and ask her more questions.
What do you say when you bring them back? Do you still say boop or do you say something else?
I don't know. It's a good question. I don't think I've ever been faced with this.
I feel like you have. Nope.
What if I
Nothing.
just never do?
Okay. Well, don't then.
That's how I normally do it. It's like the opposite of an Irish exit. It's like the Irish
Oh,
entrance. She's
just pull
there.
them in. We're lucky. We're lucky that usually they're ready, like halfway ready, because some people will be on their phone or something doing something totally else.
I was thinking about Jill Hopkins was getting like a whole charcuterie put out in front of her and a beverage and a
Oh,
back.
was that amazing? Yeah, her husband's like giving her a neck rub, serving her lunch or something.
So you got to up your game, Alexa. You got to have some really good green room stuff back there for you.
Well, you need an entourage.
I was like afraid to move or like breathe too heavy. I'm like, can they still hear me? I'm not really sure. So I was just trying to be as quiet as
you
possible
poor
back
thing.
here.
We should have told you.
No, it's fine. As soon as the camera was off, I was like, okay.
So Fred says StreamYard is easy. He can attest to that. And Kate says on Accessibilities Committee for local AA, I don't know what that it has taught me a lot. Oh, gotcha. We supply ASL interpreters when requested at quarterly meetings. More of our Zoom meetings are ASL interpreted. Mm-hmm. So important, especially right now. You know, people are under an incredible amount of pressure and feeling increasingly isolated right now during the pandemic and lockdown and all that. So super, super helpful. So you're in higher ed. Now that hasn't like traditionally been a really necessarily progressive technology space, right? But it's also more important that they be inclusive maybe than some other industries because like you said, they're teaching people, right? Yes. They're in the business of education. So how has that been for you? More receptive to making changes for accessibility or a little bit harder still?
Well, I'm lucky that when I started at St. Petersburg College last June, they already had some general accessibility best practices that they implemented for like their blogs. Like we have a bunch of WordPress blogs. They talked about alt text. I'm like, okay, cool. What about the social media? They're like, oh, we might do that. Oh, hi, Kitty.
Much to my dismay, this is part of the show sometimes.
That's fine. Mine's hiding right now. But we didn't really do that a whole lot for the social media. So I started to be a little bit more strict about it because, you know, being a social media manager, people want to send you event flyers every day, all day of post this on social. And at first I would just kind of go along with it. And then no, I'm not posting that. And I have to explain to people why. And I always give them the alternative, like, this is what I'm going to do instead. So your event is still going to get posted, but I'm not going to post an event flyer. And most people are extremely receptive to the reasoning why, to the point where I do occasionally go to different campuses within our district and, talk about this. Like, this is how you be accessible on social media. So they are extremely receptive to the point where my supervisor and my director love that I talk about this stuff outside of the college, that I educate other people. So they're super for it, to the point that we got some stuff from the state wanted us to share. So the education department. And I said, I can't share this. It's not accessible. If they can give me an accessible option, I will. And I was really nervous to say that. And my director backed me up. She's like, no, we cannot compromise our morals for this just so they can put this information out. So no, if you can find an accessible way to do it, go for it. If not, that's fine. Don't sweat it. So that was nice to be backed up like that.
Where does this all go for you? Accessibility is obviously important and it's necessary. It's the law in a lot of cases, but it sure isn't like, empire building. It is certainly nothing where you're going to, retire to an island and shoot those kind of Ty Lopez videos. So where does this go for you? How does this match into the rest of who you are and what you sell?
In a perfect world, I would never have to present on this subject ever again. People would just be taught in their classes, in their best practices when they started in an organization. These would already be implemented and people would know about them and it would be common practice. And I would never be asked to write another article or do another presentation ever again. People would just be doing it and I wouldn't be necessary. So that sounds kind of weird to say, but in a perfect world, what I talk about wouldn't be such a like, oh my gosh, we need to have her present to our committee. It just wouldn't be necessary because people would already be doing it.
And yet, right? So you've got some time to make a little career out of this before you have to find another cause, I think.
Yeah. So for now, I do just like doing stuff like this. I like presenting about it. I like interviewing about it. I like writing about it. So whoever wants me to talk about it, I'm going to talk about it. I enjoy this subject and I enjoy sharing this information with other people. So as long as I'm needed, I will continue doing this and I will be happy with that. So
Like Batman?
yeah. Yeah. And much like Batman, I don't ask people to pay me to do these things. Someone offered to pay me and I said no. It's like I don't.
Do you have a chance to teach you something here, Alexa? When someone offers to pay you for something that you already want to do, you say yes.
Yeah, no. With this particular subject, it just feels weird to me to take money, but I have looked into developing some classes through Teachable. So that might be a thing at some point, but that would be on my own time. So
Backpack community, can you please weigh in with some comments telling Alexa it's okay to get paid for doing things that are not easy, that you know more about than other people, and which you are good at?
I'm just imagining a McDonald's or an Amazon coming up and saying, "Hey, we'd like to take all your services for free." I think that's not what you're thinking about when you're thinking about it being free, but don't. Any kind of business or entity that could profit off of something you're doing to make their world better. That's how I pay people who I'm friends with to coach me. Other people who are friends with me pay me to coach them. We're friends. Now I do coach some of my friends absolutely free of charge and vice versa. But when we're providing an actual business service to each other, we exchange money that goes with it because of the value. So it's important to consider for the future. So I'm going to give you an accessibility.
Get that paper.
I'm going to get you an accessibility tip. A $ is a great symbol to know. So
I will say that Ben and Jerry's, I gave them some feedback about their social media and how they could be more accessible. And their team is absolutely amazing. And we're so enthusiastic about it. And then they paid me an ice cream. They sent me free. They sent me a bunch of those coupons for free pints of ice cream. I was like, yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Now we're talking.
Ice cream. I'll take that.
Oh, so, hell yes.
Yeah. Not only was I very excited about that, but my mother is extremely excited about those coupons. So that was really funny. But I was touched that they were so enthusiastic when I gave that advice, because I've loved Ben and Jerry's since before I was born. So I was really excited that they were like, yes, we're absolutely going to do this. Thank you.
What's surprising about this, though? What's the most surprising thing about making your social media more accessible?
I think most people don't realize how easy it is, and just what a difference it makes when it comes to your overall content creation process. Because I know for me, when it comes to like alt text for my images, it makes you more intentional about the images you choose, because you're constantly thinking now about not how people will engage with that picture, but what kind of alt text do I need to write for this, and how difficult am I making it on myself if I choose this picture versus that picture. But for me, again, doing this is extremely easy, and it matters. It makes an impact on other people's lives. So, and I've had people thank me who, rely on these practices to navigate digital spaces, and that means a lot to me. That is my favorite form of payment, is just being told what I do matters and makes a difference.
Ice cream would be my favorite.
Yeah.
Payment. Michelle really wants you to do a class. She said, I'm looking for your class.
Well, hopefully once I get to winter break, I'll have more time to think that through.
So I wanted to put out your article that you wrote for Sprout Social. And one of the things that I found interesting in it, and it betrays something I felt for quite a bit. I'm not a big fan of emojis. I don't use them very often. Super not into them. I can get with a GIF, but not with an emoji. And your whole point was that one of the big challenges of throwing a bunch of little emojis up here and there is that screen readers then start saying things like palm tree, smiling face with sunglasses, tropical drink woman, dancing medium light skin tone party popper, right? So it's a kind of a crazy scenario where in which, what they're getting because of the screen reader is tricky. How surprised do you think people are when that bit of information comes around?
Oh, they're so surprised. They don't even realize, they don't think about that when they use emoji. And there are a lot of brands out there that like to do emoji illustrations. And I'm constantly just kind of politely saying, hey, this is not accessible. You think this is really cute, but in reality, a screen reader is, taking your 24 rocket emoji, and instead of, saying whatever your illustration is, it's just saying 24 rockets. So it's okay. What does that mean? So that's something that always kind of surprises people. Of you need to be strategic about how you use these extra icons and characters in your content, because it could be making the content really confusing.
Kate wants to know what alt text is, if you could give her a quick primer. And Coach Woodard says we all want to do work that matters and it's okay to get paid for it. So I'm just saying there's another vote for yes, getting paid.
Well, thank you, Scott. So alt text. Alt text is a short physical description of an image. So basically, if you have a tweet or a post that has an image with it, which most content on social media does, you want to write a short description of that image. Usually there's a back end thing you can do before you publish your tweet or post. And basically, when a screen reader comes across your content, it's going to read the alt text aloud to the user who's using the screen reader. So then they'll get an accurate idea of what picture you've used with your content.
So right in here, when Alexa goes to put this in a fleet, for instance, it will also then say, she could type in Alexa Heinrich is a accessibility expert, blah, blah, blah. And then that's what'll show up for that, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Alt stands for alternative for people who aren't exactly caught up with the lingos.
Correct.
Carol wants to know what actress you get compared to. She thinks you look like someone, I don't know, Carrie-Anne Moss, Ruby Rose. I could go on.
I've gotten Ruby Rose when my hair was a little bit shorter. I've gotten Ruby Rose quite a bit. And when my head is completely buzzed and I go full face of makeup, my older brother likes to go, oh, Furiosa. I'll take it. Sure. Compare me to Charlize Theron, please.
Right?
So, yeah.
That was the thing on Twitter last week. They're like, what 4 people do you get compared to?
Yeah.
It's like not an all the time sort of thing. So do you ever envision doing this? I know like right now you have a full-time gig and everything else, but do you ever envision kind of doing this as like a rogue accessibility expert going from company to company and making their stuff better for them?
I think it'd be kind of fun to be a consultant of some sort, but and it's funny because I know it worries my team at work a little bit, because I am very well known for this now, but I always reassure them I absolutely love my job and I love what I do for my job. Having this passion is kind of like just a nice bonus for me. So I get to work a job that I love, but I also get to do this side gig that I also love. So yeah, if I want to do consulting on the side, I would totally do that if I could figure out how to do that from a business standpoint.
Like definitely get paid for that, Alexa.
Yeah.
Just saying. It's okay.
Yeah, but I've definitely thought about that, especially because I feel like if I were to do something like that and be transparent about the fact that I do that on my website, then maybe more brands and organizations would want to get on board when they're seeing like, oh, John Deere is being accessible with their social media. They have the Alexa stamp of approval, or the Grand Ole Opry is trying to be more accessible with their social media, which, by the way, both John Deere and Grand Ole Opry do make the effort with their social media to be more accessible. So both are run by wonderful women. Both are named Jen, and they've both told me that they make the effort, and I really appreciate that. So
any of them say you look like Cameron Diaz? Because apparently Carol disagrees with everyone who says Ruby Rose. Carol, whatever makes her happy.
Blame Canada.
So Coach Woodard says, for us old guys, what's the deal with fleets and stories on social media as opposed to normal posts?
So fleets was Twitter trying to be like the other platforms. That's what most people who work in social are saying right now. Everyone has story features now. Fleets hang around for 24 hours. It's really the tweets that you don't want to live forever. So Twitter was making the joke about post your drafts to fleets. So the things that you wouldn't normally post permanently on Twitter, throw them in fleets because they won't be there forever, but they'll be there for 24 hours, long enough for people to screenshot it.
So in their really dumb heads, they were
Right.
thinking of the concept that time is fleeting. What they forgot is there's an enema company still alive and still doing very lots of business. Fleet.
Yeah, that was brought up a couple times the other day. I personally like fleets just because Twitter is my main platform and it's where the largest bulk of my audience is when I talk about digital accessibility. So this kind of gave me one more way to share information that I don't really share this information on Instagram all that much. And I definitely don't do it on Facebook because I don't use Facebook professionally. So I don't really hate fleets as much as everyone else does.
Well, it's the name. I mean, I don't know. I think that's what people are saying. So Angus says, Nashville represent, Grand Ole Opry getting it right. Look at Angus sliding in there and not saying a thing till almost the end.
Till the end.
Angus is a twin, Alexa.
Yep.
You know.
Angus is the evil twin. That's what I like to say. All right. Time for the person of the day, which is sponsored by PubSite, pub-site.com. You have some access to this anytime you want, pub-site.com. I don't know. I can't remember if we made Joanne a person of the day, but I like her. So we'll do person of the day for Joanne Sprott. So you are person of the day. That entitles you to one absolutely free apple just like that. You just have to have someone else buy it for you because I'm sure not.
Really well.
Washed it really well. We're at this part of the story where we ask one question to every one of our guests, which is what goes in your backpack. And Alexa, the concept is that this backpack is what you're going to use to live for the next 5 years. Everything's crazy. There's nothing permanent. It could be something physical. It could be something metaphorical. So it could be, courtesy. It could be, I don't know, what's some other
pride.
It could be something physical, like a baby grand piano. So what goes in your backpack?
The big backpack.
I've got one.
What goes in my backpack? That's a really hard question. I think if I'm going to choose something not physical, I'm going to say happiness. Be really gooey about it and say happiness. So,
but then if you lose your backpack,
you've lost your happiness. It's at a bus stop somewhere.
I didn't know the possibility of losing it was a thing. I'm sorry.
You've changed the rules on us.
That wasn't part of the initiative.
I never saw my grandmother with a backpack. She had a picnic basket. I still have this picnic basket in the other room.
A picnic basket?
I'll tell you what she used to sneak into it.